seriously cannot for the life of me find those goddamn earphones. All right.
I feel like it'll just pop out the place you least expect it.
I feel like they're gonna show up right where I'm looking
Mhm.
when we finish recording.
Yeah.
Like magically reappear and just reconstitute themselves out of dust and just be like, haha, I was just being a dick.
As technology tends to do. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
so we're all liquid, we're all loose today on a nice Lunar New Year day.
Oh, I
Um,
found my headphones. Oops.
I think our conversation about that should stay in the podcast.
I agree.
It was like quick, find it. We only have 10 minutes to start. And then I started having internet problems, and like it's been a wash of production issues.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Earphones found. Podcast over. Been great
Uh,
talking to you, man. Bye.
okay. All right. Imagine I just spliced in a like a cut to black at that moment.
I don't see why not, honestly. Yeah.
Anyways, hi. So welcome to a podcast. I think we just had a cold open to this one.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
All of what we just said is gonna stay in.
That's a good idea. I
So
like it so far.
yeah,
Things are-
that's good. For all its faults, it's the faults that always make something good, right? You know, tiny mistakes. Anyways,
That'll just happen to be the signature of this episode. You know,
yeah,
technical difficulties just all over the place. That's
it's
that's today's theme.
that's
Technical
a
difficulties.
technical difficulties.
No,
Yes,
I'm
it's
sorry, not the theme, the motif.
mhm.
Motif.
That's been the theme since last March. We're coming up to almost a year of
Mhm.
COVID.
Oh God,
Tech,
you're right.
technical difficulties all around, and then
And if you think
uh
about it, it's been the theme since like October or November for China.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing is that there's some folks in my family that suspect that I had it initially,
Why
but
did you lose your sense of taste or something?
yeah, so it was around November that
Oh.
had happened. I had to cancel
Oh.
my Thanksgiving.
Oh crap.
That was a crazy. I had to cancel my Thanksgiving. I don't recall having a loss of like breath or like my breathing was affected, but I lost my sense of smell and taste, and that freaks me out because one of the first meals when that started to happen, it was like the Chinese porridge with like the 100-year-old egg, like like is it a
Yeah, but
thousand?
that already doesn't have much flavor. So
Does that not have flavor? Like that egg's
I
supposed to be
mean,
like a strong flavor.
no, I mean the porridge, the porridge,
Oh, the
and
porridge.
the egg is already like a really light kind of, I guess I would say ammonia kind of flavor,
Yeah.
but it's not ammonia because that would kill you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I have like a sense memory. It's like this should taste like what I remember
yeah.
it,
I know
and
what you
it's
mean. That
just
your
like
taste memory wasn't right.
yeah, and it was the
Yeah.
weirdest thing.
Oh.
There were several days I tried to walk it off. Like I was at home, we have a treadmill at home, and
Mhm.
it was a slog, dude. It was just terrible. It was like the worst sickness that I have in memory. Like of course you have parents that's like, oh Brian, you're just being dramatic, you're like
Mhm.
you don't remember that time you were like almost dying. I was like, okay, first of all, I was a kid, I'm an adult now. I have a different type of memory now.
Yeah,
All of that was in the past, but
yeah.
yeah,
We took you to the hospital and you were in a coma for 4 days.
so I don't remember that.
Sure, that's happening to people now. So
Yeah.
you know.
That's that nervous laughter energy right now because
Uh,
yeah, I think we've been talking truth a lot, and my January was been filled with that. Actually, all of there's people I've known that either got through it and like they're changed, they're like a changed person. There are
mhm.
some people, you know, they didn't have that chance of changing because you know they passed away because of COVID,
Mhm.
and so it's just been kind of tough like dealing with that because, and this is terrible for me to say, but for I feel like there's a sense that a lot of people, like, unless it happens to them or like their family members, it's not close enough.
It's just the bias of
Yeah.
the human experience in general. You know,
Right.
it's there's too many people on Earth, so you hear too many stories. Your brain, in order to survive as a coping mechanism, has to filter that out.
Yeah.
Because humans are tribal.
Yeah.
Got that from The Expanse, but also from studying sociology.
Oh.
Funny story. It's a side story for another day, and it
Mhm.
involves how I like managed to pay off my college debts. Yeah.
This was, I assume, pre OnlyFans. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You know, I just
Why would
met.
you know anything about that, Brian? Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I've been a fan for a long time. I'm just kidding. You know that's the funny thing. It's like in my private life, I tend to be very raunchy. And I just met you. It's like I don't want you to think that I'm a creep or anything. So this is par for the course for me when yeah, for folks that know me personally. But
You know, it's
yeah,
funny you
it's
mentioned OnlyFans because like I looked at your other podcast episodes, and you have all these like director of some nonprofit talking to you on the podcast, a lawyer, someone who works for like a finance firm, and I'm just like, how did this happen?
yeah. I do have a backstory, but I don't know if yeah. That's the funny thing. The line of work I do, it's like I try to champion other people's stories, but for me, in my mind's eye, I'm like thinking, like, do people really want to listen to what I say, or like hear how like I know, like what you said, like either a lawyer, some guy that works at JPL but also loves to advocate for housing, or
There you go.
or like a chef, or like somebody that just wants to do photography and represent the Asian American culture experience in a different way than a
Mhm.
lawyer or a doctor. And I feel like I think that Motley Crue energy, or like that similar energy that Joe Rogan brings into a podcast, is like it could just be anybody. There's no like
And
set
there it is.
expectation. There's no like set
There it is. That
expectation. Yeah.
trigger word,
Joe Rogan is a trigger
Joe
word.
Rogan.
Oh, okay.
No, because like everyone wants to be him nowadays when they start a podcast. You know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's like an easy go-to model because he got so much money off of Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What was it?
I
500 million.
and like no hate or anything like that. I know some people like to knock it down or whatever, but like it's like, you know, he made it. He worked hard for what he did, you know.
100 million.
So it's that's the thing about role models and things like that. You try your best to like work at it, try not to compare yourself too much to other people, uh, to the point that like some audience members like, oh, you're just trying to be that one person. I was like, well, I could and I could not. Like he's
At least
him
yours
and
seems to
I'm
have a
me.
focus.
Yeah.
Yours seems to have a focus. Like,
I I try my best to have like theme months, or like a series on a certain thing. But for the past couple weeks has been kind of housing and like dealing with COVID. And we're gonna talk about that too right now, because in our pre-interview we did discuss a little bit about how like the restaurant industry, and like get deeper on why I invited you, Vincent, onto the podcast, and things like that.
looks
So
awkwardly at name tag on the screen.
yeah.
We're leaving that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Continue.
yes. And we'll shall
Please.
continue by Vincent, do you want to introduce yourself? So I
Really? A
met
second
you.
time?
I I think that was during the cold open, right? But like
Calling me Vincent?
I mean Victor, sorry.
Twice, man. Twice. We're leaving that in too. So I just woke up. What's your excuse?
I was running around waiting in a Samwoo barbecue line for about 30 minutes.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah.
That'll get you pretty frazzled, actually.
Yeah, I know. It's it was interesting because it's we were just trying to get stuff ready for Lunar New Year. So we're recording this on the 11th of February. So as your
Yep.
audience members may know, Victor and I are ethnically Asian. But
Hmm.
I don't know if you celebrate in Lunar New Year. But
Normally
we
I would, yeah, normally we do. Except I don't know about this year because it's COVID.
yeah.
Yeah.
So since my parents has retired and since moved back with me, so I could like more or less take care of them or take care of their medical affairs or like make sure they're like good.
Hmm.
Because like hell am I gonna put them in a retirement home?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just been a crazy past couple days. I've had my mom been making food like night and day, and then today the only thing we need to buy is these duck and pork from San Wu, which
Hmm.
I guess legendary spot for Southern Californians. I think many people tend to get their roasted duck and pork from that restaurant, and
Yeah.
so
Do you
we did
think
that.
the money laundering scandal affected Sam Wu's recent sales at all, or have people kind of forgotten about
I never heard of
it?
this. I never heard of this
Oh,
tea.
oh boy. Okay, so
Okay.
I'll send it to you after after we record.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but apparently, one of the managers, or maybe it was the owner themselves. It was the owner. The owner pled guilty to tax evasion, tax fraud, and I think I don't think he was charged for this, but was it wage theft?
Okay, that's
So
really screwed up, especially in these COVID times.
yeah,
Wage
yeah.
staff.
Except that he'd been doing it for like the since the beginning of Samu.
Oh
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Or don't quote me on that. It was a long time, but I'm gonna have to reread the article, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
We can include a link to it if
Yeah,
that's
especially inside the description for like below in the description.
all right. Yeah, so I guess we can include a description for a link to the article.
Yes.
Oh boy.
it's
And
it's a
there are so
morning.
many articles. It's not just one publication. It's like the entire food world heard about it.
Really?
Yeah, like if you literally, dude, we could be so screwed up as to post a link to our Google search for it, and every single
Mhm.
one of those will be relevant from like verified sources. It's messed up.
Jeez.
Uh-huh.
It goes deep. It goes really deep. Well, they have they had they have several restaurants in the San Gabriel Valley area. They just recently closed one in a big plaza in San Gabriel. So which gets into our other discussion about restaurants. Victor, you're like a independent kind of upstart sort of catering type
Uh,
of. So is
I
that
call
your side
myself
gig?
a caterer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hesitate to call myself a chef, but other people call me that when I'm on site working with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's more of a situational title than it is an actual like working title.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so well, yeah. I just to introduce my side business. Um, I run a side business called Smoky Pan. But on Facebook, it's called Smoky Pan Cooking. I got to work on the branding. Got to figure that
Yeah.
out. So I sell my food through Instagram, and it's mostly of the Chinese, Vietnamese, and American fusion kind of varieties.
Mm-hmm.
That's mostly because like the stuff that I ate during college, kind of as just to get through college, was whatever I could cobble together, like through leftovers that I went out to eat with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, as a result of eating a bunch of leftovers hobbled together, you kind of naturally get fusion on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that, and especially in your college years, so you're a local to the San Gabriel Valley area, but you also got your education at
UC San Diego.
UC San Diego. So San Diego is much more closer to the border. They probably have
Hmm.
their own like unique restaurant culture or food culture down there, and so
It's
like,
more laid back, way
is
more
it
laid back.
really?
Yeah, but not as many fusion spots as LA. I think
Mm-hmm.
like LA fusion, we're at peak gimmickiness right now
Mm-hmm.
for a restaurant. Eater LA released an article a couple years back that said we are now at peak restaurant, meaning that like the body of the article was discussing how so many people were getting into the restaurant industry that they saturated any mom and pops out of possibly opening uh, without like the benefit of like extremely wealthy benefactor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like
So
a gimmick
what?
too. That I was also thinking like maybe a gimmick that tied that restaurant too. Like I
The
feel
title
like
what?
that ties to the restaurant.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like I
Like
think more really it's been in fruit or fried chicken. More recent memory. Hello.
what?
Hello.
Oh, sorry. Audio issues. So, yeah, say last part again. Recently, it's
Oh,
been what?
oh, I feel like recently restaurants have to like sell them some gimmick also top of that. Like Korean fried chicken for a while. Now it's kind of
Oh
been
yeah.
like Nashville
It's all
hot
it's all
chicken and yeah.
it's all part of the competition because
Mhm.
like when you have the resources, you can open a restaurant like start to finish like from signing to the opening day in around 3 months if you have the resources. If you don't have the resources, then typically it'll take you a year and a half, and you're paying rent on that location for that whole year and a half
Mhm.
without making any sales.
Yeah. Like very
I
sales
the
too, right?
average the what?
And low sales too, right?
Yeah, low
Yeah.
sales or well, no sales because your business license won't allow you to operate until the venue is actually open, until the address is able to sell food.
Okay. Then soft openings come into that because
Hang on, your audio is kind of clicking out.
am I?
Uh, yeah, a little bit. What kind of
Give
mic?
me- I
Something
wonder
else
if
is causing that interference. Then okay.
I want maybe it's Sam Wu. They know. They know. They're
They caught
doing
up
the
to us.
they're doing the band hammer.
4 minute delay. Yeah, yeah.
Oh dear.
Where were we? What were we talking about?
We were talking about trying to open a restaurant, and then I came up with the question of like, so where do soft openings come in to the end? Because places that are just doing like really soft openings do that opening, and I
Yeah,
don't know the concept. I'm a business major, but I'm more like a person-to-person business management, not like the increment, like the minutia details of starting like a business, especially like a restaurant.
yeah. Well, funny you mentioned soft openings because I'm actually doing a soft opening for View Music Bar and Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this Saturday and Sunday in Torrance. So, um, this place has been closed since the COVID shutdown, like, well, since the lockdown 8 months ago.
Right.
Um, and I barely have any idea what I'm doing because, like I said before, I'm a caterer, not a chef. Well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everyone calls me a chef, but I don't feel like a chef, right? It's imposter syndrome to the max. Imposter syndrome rearing its head in the worst possible time because
Yeah.
now I'm supposed to be doing my job and I barely know how.
No,
So as far as the soft opening goes,
I feel like it's
yeah,
putting yourself in the lion's den almost of like work experience there.
yeah. And do I have a choice? Not really.
you would
I mean, I can
you
walk away, but I mean, I've come this far.
yeah, you've accepted the
Uh,
job and you have to perform. Consider it a
yeah,
test.
exactly. Yeah.
All those years of experience
So,
that brought you here. Yeah.
all those years, my entire 2.5 to 3 years. Oh God, what have I gotten myself into? Okay, so here's what's happening with the soft opening. They already. Oh, and this one's kind of a. Uh, I wouldn't say unique situation because so many like bars and other restaurants are going through the same thing.
Right.
But businesses that have been shut down but have managed to pay their leases this entire time since June or since May, whenever the last like major lockdown happened. Um, they are kind of doing soft openings to like welcome people back.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. Like we're doing a soft opening to welcome people back. We're just gonna have an appetizer menu and one entree
Mm-hmm.
because people are mostly going there for the drinks. Now, this is a
Right.
setting where customers are coming in to like drink, to go out, to have a night out. It's not necessarily like to not necessarily an evening for people to like have a full on dinner, I suppose, because that's how they wanted me to structure the menu.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as other restaurant soft openings, like if a restaurant were to do a, let's say a mom and pop opens up their first spot and they need to generate sales to see, kind of test the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they finally have all their equipment working. They finally have all their paperwork done so that they can actually sell food and open up the location and call themselves a restaurant business. Um, so once all the paperwork's done and once all the equipment is functioning and they have done a bunch of taste testings within the staff and have figured out what the operation looks like from from a preparation to an order standpoint, then they can do the soft opening. So that's when the manager goes and buys all those banners and like pays for all the ads and says soft opening this date to this date, or soft opening this date starting now, or whatever, right? However they want to phrase their ad campaigns. And
Mm-hmm.
then they hope to attract the customers.
Mm-hmm. So this place that you
Yeah,
are doing this cold open, this has been in an establishment that's kind of been there prior to COVID, and this soft opening is
yeah, it's been there
basically,
for a few years.
yeah. And so the soft opening is basically to not only just welcome, but also kind of test the waters of like how, like, do people feel comfortable being in a restaurant, after like all of this that has been happening with COVID and everything like that. Um, I was
Yeah,
one.
and I can say, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, sorry. We might be on a delay now since we've fixed the audio and the connection. But I was
Sure.
gonna last point on that is the I wonder if the soft opening is a thing because it's like, do they, like, I know it's a welcoming for the community, but maybe for some restaurants they feel like, we've been through one shutdown, a reopening around the summertime, and then another shutdown around this fall winter season. Like, do you have a sense that restaurant owners or like family businesses just feel hesitant to try to open full because there was so many things that were happening in the course of March of 2019? Wait, no, 2020 all the way up until now. My track of time is just shot now at this point. uh
Yeah,
since
it's been a
2020
long
now.
10 years.
Yes,
It's been a long
I
decade.
probably
March
have
has.
aged that much.
Yeah. To answer your question, to answer your question, let's see. Well, yes, I think businesses of all sizes are hesitant because when you think about it, if you want to open full scale, and you can't anyway because like the city won't let us open full scale. You have a max capacity. So when you want to open to the capacity limits that have been imposed, you still have to pay for all that labor, and that has to come from somewhere, and that has to come from the customers.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think for now everyone's going to be doing soft openings. You're going to be seeing slow soft openings or gradual rollouts from every restaurant business that isn't run by a maniac,
Yeah.
um, until everyone gets the all clear from the government to like open back up to complete normalcy. And
Hmm.
I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
Honestly, with the way that Los Angeles County behaves, um, just the sheer variety of people who like the sheer spectrum of people who trust in science and don't, and therefore understand like the health complications and don't of having so many people crowded together. I don't think LA is going to get back to normal for what was the least optimistic measurement? 2024.
On an
the least
economic
optimal.
level, or like on a restaurant level for like that specific
The
industry, or just
restaurants
holistically?
are yeah, restaurants are a huge support of the economy, right? So I mean, people gotta eat, and a great many of those people don't know how to cook for themselves, so they go out, they buy prefab meals.
Hmm.
So I'd say on a grander economic level, because the economy is not based on marketing firms and um, like tech firms that run technology for other businesses. Those tech firms will survive. The marketing firms will find other gigs. Um, it's run by the small businesses that make up close to 70% of the economy, really,
Yeah,
the
and it's
entire economy. Yeah.
and I would say, especially for a community like the San Gabriel Valley, at most is like we really have a lot of ethnic food. A lot of the things that made Chinatown very popular back in the day, it's all has since moved east
Mhm.
to like San Gabriel, Temple City, Arcadia, Monrovia, Roland Heights
Diamond
for
Bar.
yeah, Roland Heights,
Yeah.
Diamond Bar for Korean and Japanese food. So like it has since kind of moved
Hmm.
in inland, away from downtown area. And so you have
Hmm.
not just restaurants but markets and a whole industry that surrounds itself with food and restaurants. And can you hear the phone in the background?
Yeah. Do you need to get that?
No, that's not my phone. Sorry.
Oh, nice.
Oh dear.
All good.
uh I didn't realize there was a phone there. Oh dear. Well,
It's all good, man.
all right. Well, that happened.
Okay. So, sorry, that was pretty distracting. What were you just saying?
Yeah, I was saying, like, in this time of COVID-19 and um the stay-at-home orders and how we've been as like just citizens, it's like it's gonna affect restaurants a lot. It's gonna affect markets a lot, like grocery stores, small mom and pop markets. There's like even like tiny Japanese markets that serve like elderly communities. They're gonna get affected by this. And then
Hmm.
grocers and farm workers that are not tied to a giant farming corporation, that grow ethnic related food like your bitter melon or your winter melon, or like lychee, and or any type of fruit that doesn't conform, I guess, to a Western palate. Like they're gonna get affected too. So s- I try my best to be as optimistic as possible, but I do understand that given a situation where I feel like there's not a lot of support coming from both the local, state, and a government level, um,
Hmm.
like it's what's gonna give, first. These Are we gonna support these corporations first, or are we gonna support
Hmm.
these small and mom and pop um 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 businesses? And I know you may not be an expert in this or at all, but I'm just as citizens we're bringing this up because I feel like we are worried, and like there is a culture here that we have a a burgeoning food culture, and we placed a huge bet on it. I gotta be very honest. For the communities of the San Gabriel Valley, we put a huge bet on having these restaurants, having these markets, and having these function as pillars of the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Well,
if I want to tie a question to it, is like, where is the onerous of this? Like, who needs to take the challenge to control and manage this? And hopefully I'm not hopefully I'm not interrupting too bad, because it's like I think this delay is not great right now for the podcast.
where is the onus on this? Yeah, we'll work with the delay. We'll figure it out. Where is the onus on this? Hmm, that's a good question because like we want the answers to come from the top down, right?
Hmm.
That's what we hope. Like people have been campaigning for the paycheck protection program. but that has mostly fallen into the hands of like mega corporations that already own everything.
Hmm.
Um, and the backlash of the program is that people were not going to back to work because they weren't getting paid enough to get back to work. So I don't know. I mean, does it fall on raising the minimum wage? Does it fall on like uh coming up with some sort of supplemental grants? Does it fall on another paycheck protection program, but like this time with better quality control so that they actually go into small businesses?
Hmm.
It's hard to say because like the side effects of this, I don't know how the side effects of what good intentions through the government and through the people will unintentionally harm us all. This is really hovering on the very edge of my knowledge, so I'm just speaking from like what I've witnessed so far,
Yeah,
and
and
like
experience.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
well, it's okay to speculate, and and I think the thing
is it
is
though? Is it? Isn't that how we got in this mess?
especially for the stock market, yes.
Yes,
For game stonks. Wait, has that happened since our
I think
last
it's more or
podcast?
less back to normal now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, the things are dipping, because of the different strains, but that's neither here or there.
yeah,
But speculate in the way of like this is the communities we live in, and I think
yeah.
and I'm okay, like, as for guests, to, like, if they have strong opinions about it, like, say it, like,
Hmm.
when are you ever going to get the chance to, outside of your friend groups and things like
Start
that.
your own podcast.
Yeah, just start your own podcast, as we mentioned at
Right.
the very beginning, Victor.
Just like
um
destroy the competition. No.
the funny thing is, the way I am and the way I'm, like, professional in the work I do, in the daytime, my supervisor was like, Brian, we need you to just continue your podcast because it's actually improving your work, because you have a space to just talk, like
Nice.
work is work, but you got a space to talk. And I was just like, okay, that makes sense. Because I'm very excited, like, when it comes to, like, say I was watching Minari recently, I'm like, who's awake in 3 a.m in the morning so I could talk about this right now. Well, I think when you texted me, I was just like, do I want to, like,
Is that what happened?
yeah, I was watching Minari in the middle of the night. I was just like, do I want to tell Victor that I'm watching this movie right now? Like,
Dude,
I
I
have a
was just
lot of
finishing up.
thoughts.
Yeah, I was just finishing up in the kitchen.
Oh
So
yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm dead tired. Everything hurts. What the hell? I'm getting a text. All right, why not?
Just answer your emails, answer your texts in
Yeah.
the middle of the night.
You'll find that restaurant people, our sleep schedules are whack. There's nothing consistent about any two restaurateur, like restaurant employees.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's just we have to make food while everyone else is eating, and then we have to clean up while everyone else is already asleep. So,
Yeah, or getting
every,
smashed or drunk somewhere else.
yeah, pretty much,
Yeah,
pretty much.
I should know this more, because I guess my roommate now, he's a I think he's like a, well, I guess he's a chef,
Cool.
um but he works at Google, so I guess, like,
What?
yeah, he works at Google as a chef. And so
Sweet.
like
That's a sweet gig.
he would also tell me, like, all of these crazy ingredients that they would, like, source, because I guess Google is big money bags, but
Plus, I'm sure they've got a good search engine somewhere to find food. Hmm.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
They probably have some, like, weird, like, because it's Google and we don't really know what Google does, they probably have, like, a little teleport machine from one country to another. They could just easily grab a chili from one place and bring it over here.
There's just like a blue and orange portal, and then just goes womp, womp.
A sad farmer somewhere is like, what just happened to my crop?
Yeah. Well, they're not going to care. Have you ever been on a farm?
I want to say yes, but it was when I was a kid, though. We were
Okay.
visiting family that owned a farm in, like, the San Fernando Valley. Yeah.
Okay. Um, a good 40% of the crops are gonna end up on the floor, not harvested.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
it's
this.
terrifying. the only way that they survive at all is through government supplements. And without
S-
those, there's basically, I mean, you're basically going to go bankrupt in like 3 years.
So
So,
my question is,
mhm,
when everything started happening with coronavirus and like April turned into May,
mhm.
there was this thing that really outraged many people, and because we didn't have toilet paper for a long time, we didn't have some of the essentials,
When all the food was rotting in the fields, right?
yeah, and I was
Yeah,
just
because that
thinking,
was their first time seeing it.
yeah, that was the first time seeing it, and I was
That
just
was
like,
the first
wait,
time the
what?
public had gotten to see it.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like it's one of the first times that like photographers had the free time to go out and look at the food because they never had to think about that before.
Hmm.
But like as bad as that as bad as that was, that's basically what happens when any farmer goes bankrupt or can't make it's the difference between one sale or not. That that's really it. Except this was compounded because every restaurant had to shut down, every supermarket had to cut back. So
And
this
I
wasn't one
imagine
sale.
also,
This was
oh yeah, sorry, I imagine also
schools.
all school
Schools.
districts,
Yeah,
school
yeah.
districts.
Oh my God, schools are a huge part of like farm sales. So when they had to cut back, dude, I
Yeah.
think uh, I want someone to correct me on if I'm wrong, but it it seems like schools actually distribute more food than restaurants because
Pre-COVID
there are
or during COVID?
pre-COVID.
Yeah, I want to say yes, because the amount
It's
of
every
public's.
child,
Mhm.
yeah, and they just got to figure that out. Like it's every single child under 18 or every child who's enrolled. So, I mean, that's a huge swath of the population of any city. So it's got to be schools, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest distributors of food. So, yeah, when they cut back, holy crap.
Hmm. I also want to mention this, when during the summer we did this food program for high school students.
Hmm.
We kind of coordinated between the teachers union in the area plus the school district to coordinate like teachers to drop off food for families.
Hmm.
um you don't realize as a kid like the amount of food that it takes to feed you,
Yeah,
and then
seriously.
and it's like 20 pounds of food, and just times that by the amount of kids in a one family, and times that by how many families are in a school district. And I got to be honest, I'm pretty sure we only served a fraction of that school district. Like I guarantee you, like if we tried to serve all of the schools in that district,
You would
um
have freight trucks just driving through city street or like local suburbs.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the folks we served, like they had like immediate need. Like they indicated there's certain things
Income levels and
economically,
yeah.
yeah, going wrong. And with COVID, yeah, by an exponential form, like you have families living in hotels right now.
Yep.
And so I'm not, this is something that I've noticed, and I'm not gonna let people know, but this is why we have
Why
Project
not?
Room Key and like all of these things. Like families are couch surfing right now. There are instances where I hear that, and food is very important. Trying to get them fresh produce, like if it's possible, because I think some of these places, like they don't have proper refrigeration. So
Hmm.
we have to try our best to like be conscious of that. It's like, could we give them frozen foods like a frozen pizza or something like that? Because that might make sense for some, but for folks that are in the Project Room Key kind of ecosystem, that doesn't make sense, because how often do you go to a hotel that has an oven, you
Yeah.
know
Or a freezer.
or a freezer too? So
Oftentimes, the mini fridge in a hotel room, the freezer is only like big enough for what is it, a single Marie Callender's kind of
like dinner,
like
yeah.
microwave dinner. Yeah, yeah.
So it's just, I guess I've been facing food insecurity and like this pandemic in a way that like I haven't seen it before, or like have
Hmm.
ever dealt with, really,
Yep.
because I've seen it at a distance, I think. And I think this goes to our first conversation about coronavirus and taking this seriously, is that if it's at a distance, you could to some degree kind of ignore it. I think that's kind of a human nature type of thing. And for me, like, I feel like I've been guilty of that too. Like, I just at least admit it and say, like, yeah, I've felt those things also. But now that it's been in the forefront, it's been in my face for the past couple months, and to a crazy degree, at least in January, it's just been it's been putting things into perspective. And that's why I've been trying to like talk to people that's either dealing with it right now or trying to find solutions to deal with it. And so, yeah, I think that's why
Yeah.
I also brought you on here to discuss like restaurants and markets and like just food in general. Um like how does that affect a community, or how does that affect like just you personally as a family member, as an individual? Yeah, there you go.
The way that okay, wait. How does what affect me as a what?
No,
Hold on.
I was
So
rambling.
that was kind of long-winded. I
Yeah.
couldn't pick out exactly which one you wanted to answer. But so yeah, how would you like to reiterate that?
Yeah, I would just probably reiterate, it's like, this pandemic has just really put a lot of things in perspectives, and food is just one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
And probably one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to somebody that worked in a restaurant, or talk to somebody that either started up
Ah,
like a business. Or my initial guess was somebody that started this chili oil business. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's like
oh, you interviewed that guy. Nice.
yeah, well, I would want to then never
Oh, I see. I see.
return. But um
I see. Yeah.
but I did wanted to like say, it's like, you're starting a business in the most extreme place in time, like one of the craziest moments in history. You're starting a business is like how do you see like businesses or the restaurant industry surviving something like this, surviving a worldwide pandemic? Because honestly, it survived. There are restaurants that's been through the influenza pandemic. There's 100-year-old
Yeah.
restaurants
Yeah.
here. So like they got to survive somehow. But I think at this current moment, at this point in time, it's like, what can new players in this area, like how can they survive?
Well, um, they survive by looking at the people who've made it so far and looking at how they adapt. Mostly, what I've done is I looked at restaurant. I looked at established restaurants, like institutions in the community, and saw how they switched from their dine-in setting to delivery and online model. I try to emulate that to the limits of like what I could make at home, because I'm only a one-person operation. I don't make enough money through my food sales to like both pay the bills and pay an employee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure that it's kind of the same for many other people who are going through the same thing. I've seen a lot of Instagram pop up businesses. Oh, and social media is actually a game changer because that has never that has never leveled the playing field of startups before. I mean, think about it. You used to have to pay for radio advertisements, or
Mm-hmm.
and that used to be the cheap. Well, radio and newspaper advertisements. Newspaper, I think, used to be the cheapest way to go, but now we can do it for free. And it's on. I mean, you could do it for free before. You wouldn't reach as many eyes, right?
Right, right.
But now we can do it for free, and everyone's got a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
Or you pay $10 for an Instagram ad, and it hits even more people in your radius. The other thing that I noticed is, I mean, the other thing that I've always been a proponent of is food is a very localized problem for a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
because you can't eat something that's not in front of you.
Right.
Right. So, like, I've been a proponent for people like starting their businesses through like social media, whatever tools they use, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp. I don't know how that works.
WhatsApp, Weibo, whatever,
Sure, whatever allows you to broadcast
whatever
and
allows
post,
you to
right?
broadcast. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been trying to promote others, like other home cooks and startup mom and pops that are doing the same thing. um, because I'm in the same boat as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of individuals that start out that way, and like you introduced me to one pastry chef that they've created their own identity, their own business
Shout
through.
out to Mary's Make Shop on Instagram.
I'm gonna get some very special macaroons one of these days. One of these days, I swear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that's been kind of like now the trend is like being born out of the digital age almost. Um Whether it's a restaurant tour or a baker or your situation, a catering situation, or maybe in some cases folks that want to try their best on making light of a bad situation. There's like that guy in, I think, Philadelphia, that's like just making pizzas out of
Cool.
random and just like serving them for free for folks. And so I'm
Cool.
like
That's nice.
that was born out of social media, and I think it has been a thing for about like 10 to 15 years for a while, right? The computer age had digitized pizza deliveries like way back then.
Sure, but we hadn't seen the need for it until
Mhm.
like we had the desire for it, sure.
Mhm.
It was out of convenience, but we hadn't seen the need for it out of medical emergencies,
Mhm.
public health emergency. So, until now.
Yeah, until now, this dire
Yeah.
situation where where allowed many people outside of the big corporate restaurants to create and be independent in that way.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, we could talk all day about how to leverage social media and how leveraging it has helped small businesses grow out of thin air, basically.
mhm.
Um, but honestly, I'm just starting to figure that out myself, and it's because Instagram keeps on updating. It always has new tools,
Yeah,
and they hide the old ones.
I feel like we both felt that a past couple days when I was trying to
Yeah,
figure out
yeah,
what I was
exactly.
doing.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But I'm in a different situation than most home cooks because like a lot of these home cooks, I know by talking to some of them, um, they are just trying to make ends meet through
Mhm.
any way they can. Maybe they got laid off from the restaurant recently, or maybe the unemployment benefits got cut because it approached the end date in California. Um, the solution to pay the bills, because those aren't freezing anytime soon, is they had to just kind of start up whatever food they knew. They had to start up whatever kind of business they knew. Sorry, they could using the food that they knew. And I mean, Instagram was just the easiest tool to use for that. And I plug Instagram here because like Facebook takes a lot more work than Instagram if you want to post the things that you're trying to sell. And I know that from having a Facebook page for Smoky Pan Cooking, facebook.com/Smoky Pan Cooking, and also from having like the Smoky Pan Instagram. Um, it's just it's just that the tools that each one has makes it seem like Instagram's just so much more user friendly.
Mhm.
So everyone's going to be flocking to that.
And I think it's a simple and digestible social media
Yeah,
for
you just look at
for
the
someone.
pictures. There's a short caption,
Mm-hmm.
and the hashtags will throw you into the algorithm that the hashtag algorithm will throw you into the field with everyone else, and
Mm-hmm.
then you get more eyes on it.
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed about Instagram. Um, I don't have short descriptions. I tend to have like long-winded like essays, and I'm like, I have a lot to say, and then I've got my nephew saying like, Brian, what are you doing on this social media? The pictures look nice. You take a lot of nice
Taking the
pictures.
Insta out of the Instagram. You got to
I'm
keep the
like,
Insta in there.
this funny thing is some of my journalistic friends or like my friends that used to work in newspapers. I was like, Brian, just freaking start a blog or something, because it's like
Yeah.
I can't. It's just I can't with your Instagram. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'll just do a blog then.
Oh, why not? I mean, they're like what, $5 a month to host.
Yeah,
Might as well do it. Might as well get on it.
yeah. See what I could get.
I've been meaning to do that for Smoky Pan for a whole year now. I just haven't gotten to it because, like,
It's just
honestly, I don't know. Everything else has just gotten in the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But dealing with the pandemic, have you had um like a run-in or a scare when it came to COVID these past couple months, especially like so you're more of like going out in the community and like like sending your food and things like that. Have you had like a run-in with COVID or anything like that in the past 6 months, or like at least from now until from March
Mm,
until now?
do deaths in the family count?
I get that does count. That does count in this
Yeah.
equation. Yeah.
Um, couple of my aunts who work in nursing homes got COVID, and then one of their husbands died.
Hmm.
So we lost one of my uncles due to COVID.
Hmm.
Um, uh, oh, and the one who died, like they have a son, and he got COVID too. So I mean, he recovered. He's young, but he lost his dad. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I don't remember much else in the family. We've been really careful to avoid large crowds and to mask up and sanitize every surface.
Hmm.
Not obsessively, but in the beginning we used to.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did like a whole house scrub down at some point. I think it was when we were just hearing about like how infectious the disease really was. So yeah, that's my personal experience with like how COVID has affected us. A lot of my friends have gotten it just from being reckless.
Hmm.
Um, a few of my friends have gotten it even though they were careful, just from even if you mask up and have your own personal protective equipment, if you're in a super crowded area, eventually something's gonna hit. You
Hmm.
know, it's
Yeah.
just it's a shotgun. You spray into a field, and eventually you hit a bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really tough, and I'm sorry for your loss. And we've have some brushes with coronavirus. My I have had a family member, a niece in this case. They had it, and then she recovered, and now she's getting her education abroad.
Hmm.
Um,
Wait,
and
what? She was allowed to travel?
well, I guess there's an exception for learning
Stay
abroad. I
abroad?
guess, yeah, study abroad. There you go. So
Where is she going?
the one place where you apparently you don't want to go, the UK.
No. She's gonna be locked in a little
A little
British
longer.
apartment forever, basically. Well,
She's
I
been
hope it's not London, at least. Oh, come on. Well, at least she gets to live that London loft life as a novelist or whatever for
yeah,
however long it takes.
for however long it takes. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been documenting it on her Instagram, on her stories, and it's just been interesting. She just talks about the food. All she does is just talk about the food. It's like, this is what I'm eating. I'm like, cool.
Because how else are you gonna get through the days, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. UK
Yeah.
Netflix, see what they got.
Well, we got VPNs now. If you get one of those.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
Yeah.
was thinking about that when one of my trips to Japan, um, we got all this like Japanese content, and then my friend was like furiously like downloading like Netflix, Japanese version of Netflix, and like all of these things. And I was like, wouldn't it
Nice.
just be easier to just like
To
get
just
a
get the
VPN
VPN. Yeah.
or whatever? But I was also thinking it's like, well, we
Yeah.
already sunk like thousands of dollars for this trip already. So it's like, okay, well, I
Oh,
guess that makes sense too.
well, you already sunk thousands of dollars into this trip. What's another $4 a month?
That's true. All right, fair
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
And going back to the whole COVID conversations, yeah, my mom and dad did not get it, but like the fact that they were living with my sister and their family, like it just my anxiety just went through the roof when it came to that.
Damn.
Um,
Yeah.
but more recently, January felt like kind of, at least for LA County and like the Southern California area, that's where COVID-19 has kind of like amassed into this like giant like worry for us here in the West Coast. And
Hmm.
my parents has lost their friend. Like I was close to them too. Like they were family friends that came here a lot, to eat and like to try new foods. I would always bring Italian food from the local market here in San Gabriel. And so like there's a lot of emotional like attachment to that and to that family.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I have a supervisor that her dad passed away, and there's a lot that goes with that. And it's just been very tough across the board, I think. um
Sorry
and
for your losses.
yeah, sorry, I like the the funny thing is like I talked about this with many of my guests before at this point, but like no matter how much help I get, I feel like I still have those emotions still, and like all of those things, and I just need to just be at peace and with understanding that.
You're
Like
just gonna have to process them your way
yeah,
because no two people are gonna have the same advice or way to handle grief. Grief
yeah,
is extremely personal.
and
It's
it's
the one thing. It's the one thing that we get to have on our own. I mean, yes, there's shared grief, but your personality is gonna dictate how you handle that.
yeah. I think the thing is that like I'm a very empathic person, and then that was one of the things like me and the person I'm talking to, like that, I guess I could call her a therapist, but the person I'm talking to is just like, yeah, it's much more harder for an empathic person to really like talk about how they feel because they just internalize everything. And like I feel like I'm like when if somebody's going through it, I'm feeling just the same pain as much as they are, like it almost seems as real. um Sometimes I get the comments, well, like, Brian, you barely know this person. So it's like, yeah, but I understand what that means. Like someone's going through that. I know how that feels like, and like
Like on a human level.
on a human level, yeah. And just at some weird points, I think I've mentioned this. I think pre-COVID, it's like I wish I could just turn that off, but I know I can't because that's just how I am. And like I just need to just live with that and like understand that it's been a little tough because it's like it's been a big test, I guess, when with this whole COVID thing. It's like testing a lot of people. But yeah, I think it's just been manageable. Like I just managed it. I'm just like, okay, every day I know I have to be a service to my community, especially with the work I do every day. And so like I try my best to be there, be present, and be understanding. And like you know I'm not saying that I'm gonna come out of this being like a more rugged person out of it, like personality wise, but I think I'll probably have a better sense of how to like deal with, I guess, trauma, and like be more open about it, be more like, what, like I am going to have this conversation. This is how I feel right now. Like not just like hold it in and like I guess cry myself to sleep at night or something like that. I know that sounds like tragic, but
Yeah, that works for you.
yeah, if that works for me, but if it does, but yeah, that's how I've been managing in my pandemic. I know this been a conversation about me and you and how we've been doing, but yeah.
Well, if we want to go back to the early pandemic days, then I mean, if we, I kind of want to go back to the early pandemic days where, back in March, like for the first time, everyone was on Twitter at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you just saw like millions of the memes just popping up. But aside from the memes, like it was the first time that I'd seen my entire feed all about like mental health posts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So because like everyone was going through it at the same time, and finally they'd all decided to just point it out that we can't use the Mad Men post World War II recovery era of rough and like just being rugged and ignoring our feelings anymore, because that's how you get PTSD to never go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, at least at the very least with the public health crisis we're in, everyone's handling their depression and other mental health issues a little more openly, and it's it's not that the stigma is going away, but the stigma is losing its edge.
Right.
Yeah. So at least it's a little more like an open conversation now about
Mm-hmm.
what people need on a mental health level.
I think that's
And I'm glad
probably
you're able to talk about that.
I think it's also for the better too, because from the like the advocacy work that I've done before, like we've had town hall conversations where there are some families in the Asian community that just like absolutely don't want to talk about it, or absolutely like think it's just the onerous is on that individual person to need to just deal with it,
Can I
and
make
it's
a
not.
quick side note?
Yeah.
The word you're looking for is onus.
Onus. Oh,
Yeah.
I've always heard it as one way, but
Onerous means oh god, what is it? It's like foreboding, or it's like a bad omen or something like that. Like
oh,
dangerous.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the onus is on like that individual person to dictate like how they feel and things like that. But you know, I guess there's still just a stigma in some communities here.
Yeah,
But I
like
feel it's
it's on you
improving.
to it's
Yeah.
on you to express how you feel, but you can't because you're not supposed to express how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of the well, I mean, in most Asian countries, psychology is still not considered like on the same level as it is here. Like
Mm-hmm.
here it's considered like actual medicine. But over there it's just like, oh, you're just crazy. Like they still throw the word crazy around
Mm-hmm.
so much in every language that I know. Yeah.
Probably have way more words for crazy than than
Well,
other
yeah,
words, but yeah.
yeah. Because they don't want to address it. Like they don't want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually goes back to, it's funny that Confucius actually had entire lessons about what we today call mental health. Except back then and I partially blame him for this. He called it disharmony,
Oh
and
yeah,
he's
that's
all
right.
about harmony and order.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like doing something, if you're doing things that are, if you're behaving in ways that are out of harmony, then something's wrong with your family. Basically, and then his students took that an extra step after he passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and said like, um, if your family is not doing, or if your family is not behaving in proper order, then of course you're going to feel out of balance. Meaning, in today's terms, okay, keep that in mind, right? If your family
Yeah.
is not behaving in proper order, you're going to be out of balance.
Out of
Let
balance.
that
Got it.
mutate over like 3-ish thousand years to now. What do you think that does to families that have a kid who's depressed and then commits suicide?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes them blame themselves forever, like forever and for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So no, they don't want to address that. They feel like they're going to get all the blame for it, and then they feel like, I know this from my family. They want to like avoid psychologists and psychiatrists, any kind of mental health counseling, because that would suggest that they are not a person who's living in proper balance,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it mutated over 3,000 years. Let's hope that it rebalances itself out, I guess. I don't know. But
Well,
you're seeing, yeah, you're seeing more traditional families like still staying away from like talking about their mental health. And
Mhm.
it's not just traditional Asian families, it's traditional every family. Because psychology, it's come a long way, but the acceptance of it still has a lot to catching up to do.
Yeah, because at some point we did believe that there were like a mental health issue that came from the LGBT community, you know. Like I've been
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've been trying to educate myself that for my students to like really understand, like, you know, we believe really kooky things before. And so it's like acknowledging that history, and then just like, you know, that happened, but we got to be better. Like we're living in the now. Like
Mhm.
we can't compare our suffering and like be like, oh, like, or like an older generation, it's like, oh, I suffered so much and things like that. Well, like we're still trying to build better. Like, god damn it, I realize that's a Biden quote, but we're trying to build a new like new platform where, you know, we can discuss mental health issues. And I think now that my parents have since moved back, and like I'm kind of like caring for them and to some degree, it's like I think me being open, it's like, you know, this is how I'm feeling, you know, I haven't really, you know, express my own emotions or like express those things. And I know sometimes that could be an issue because they haven't grown up in that environment
Isn't that
or things
how
like
like
that.
isn't that like the climax of every Asian drama?
The what, the parents move back to a younger
No, no, the child expresses their feelings for once in front of their parents, and the parents are like, "Oh my god!" Like in every
oh
Asian
yeah,
drama I've
yeah,
ever
yeah,
seen.
yeah.
"Oh my god, you have emotions?" Like,
You just
yeah,
learn how to block it for as long as
yeah,
you can.
right,
Very interesting.
yeah, uh,
But it's been kind of, I th- I think it's shifted, and I know it's not going to change their mind. It's like I'm not out there to change anybody's mind. Like I think it's
well,
just to
why
have a.
not?
I don't think that's my place. I don't know. especially
Fair enough.
especially I don't know. Maybe I'm still within that kind of Confucius hierarchy of like, you know, I'm I'm still recognizing that I'm the youngest of like six existing out of the eight, right? Um, and like I have to know my place in the family and things like that. But at the same token, you know, like there are older siblings of mine that says it's like, well, you know, we live in a different context. Like you can, like your opinions can matter and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
so I've been testing that a little bit here and there, and like just being open. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna be part of this whole Dogecoin thing or something like that. You know, like I'm not doing it. You know, and like good for you if you
It's a
got
good
money
reference
from.
there, by the way.
Yeah, it's like good for you for you know this GameStop stock, but I'm not investing in that. You know, I missed my shot, so like I'm not gonna cry over it. You know, and
Oh, I see, I see. Yeah.
yeah, so like I know my references is just like too soon, I guess. But anyways,
No,
um,
it's not too soon. It's just they're a little out there at this point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and just be more conscious of that because I've had a situation where I think there was a family member that says, Brian, like, why don't you like talk to like the older people in the family? It's like, well, I just grew up just like I've always been told to like know your place and things like that. Like I've always treated it that way. Like now you're asking for something different. You're asking me to communicate and things like that. And I get it. It comes from a place that like they live like hundreds of miles away from me and things like that. Like I guess they're worried that they'll lose a connection there. But it's gonna take time for me to like feel like I have a confidence to do that or feel like that I can have a voice there. And I feel like it has to come from me before, you know, they expect it, you know? And I don't know if that's right or wrong. I know you're not a psychologist, and I think this is a little
Hmm.
far cry from talking about restaurants, which was our initial thesis of the
Was it,
program.
or was
Yeah.
it about the Asian community?
I think we were conflating a
A
lot of
little bit of
things.
both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Yeah.
Little column A, column B.
Yeah. Little column A, little column B.
Yeah.
Flanders. Oh wait, no,
Yeah.
that was Homer.
Was it?
No wait, that was Flanders. I forgot. It's been decades since that episode of The Simpsons. Who cares anymore?
Yeah. It all melds together at some point.
Yeah.
Um
Uh,
So going back to restaurants, so
Jesus, we're going back from that. Okay, sure.
I don't know. I don't know what's do we want to
Sure,
still stay
Brian,
on
fire
this?
away. Whatever question you want to ask, I'll try to shift gears back to whatever the hell we were on.
Well, this might still be on the topic of families and Asian
Sure.
American identity. So it tracks.
I could see
but
that
but
somehow. I can imagine ways. Yeah.
so we both don't have like the like traditional Asian American path. I feel
I
um
did for a while.
you did for a
Um,
while.
Before I was a cook, I was a. All right, so yeah, the what is the so-called traditional Asian American path, right? It's that 1970s article from, or what was it, the 1990s article from, I think Time magazine about us being the Asian whiz kid, despite the
Hmm.
fact that was like less than 10% of us.
Hmm.
Um, and going to college, getting a degree, working in some desk job or other comfortable, some comfortable desk job, or like in my case, tech for a little while. I mean, all right. So I went to Pasadena City College. So that's already like not exactly on track for the Asian American experience.
Right.
Can we cuss on this podcast?
I'm not against it, so I'm fine with it.
Doesn't matter. I've lost my momentum. But I mean, for the ones who say you needed to go to college or else you weren't Asian, fuck you. Oh, there it is.
Yes. You found your momentum and you went for it.
Yeah. Like the ones who said like, "Oh, if you didn't go to college, you're not really Asian." Go fuck yourself. Um, but I went to PCC and I used to be that guy. So I can say that to my old self. This is us learning how to let go of our past.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah, went to PCC, Pasadena City College for for anyone who doesn't know, junior college in the area. Then I transferred to UC San Diego, finished my degree there in political science, concentration on American politics, because through some loopy like I don't know fuckery from the administrations, from the administrators at UCSD's political science department, um, one of the professors suddenly quit, and that guy, he was the last. He was the only professor for the last class I needed to graduate on time.
Hmm.
So the counselors for the department were just getting dozens of political science students coming in saying, "Dude, I can't graduate on time because this guy quit."
Hmm.
So all of us had to change our major to political science with a concentration in American politics. And during graduation, what was it, 6 months later, like 2 quarters, I had to stay to take the both summer sessions and then the fall quarter in order to graduate because I had to rack up that many classes. And the worst part was that it was really hitting the limit for. Yeah, I'm getting too technical. Let's let's focus. Anytime
Yes.
I heard someone whose name was called and their major was political science with a concentration in American politics, I raised my thumbs like I was thumbs up like, yeah, man, I feel you.
It was that one
Like
year in San Diego.
it was that one year, that fucking professor. So anyway, got through that. Worked for the International Rescue Committee for a year and a half, 2 years. I was one of their interns, helping refugees resettle,
Hmm.
finding jobs, and writing their resumes mostly, and also handling a lot of their phone calls for companies. With their limited English abilities, I was part of the team that like helped them with that. Did that for a couple of years. Then I went to Taiwan to no. Then I went to Taiwan to study Chinese because I just wanted to take a break from finding a job for a while.
Hmm.
When I came back to reality, I had a desk job, just in some office, and then I wanted to make more money, so I became a programmer. And that's when my parents were finally like, "Oh, you're doing something with your degree," and I'm like, "What? Ah,
I was like, sure, why not?
it political science is not exactly related to programming, but sure, why not?" And then after 3 years of being a really bad developer, where all of my code broke all the time, full of errors, and never really worked,
Hmm.
uh, and I got fired from my last job as a programmer, I became a cook, and that's
Mm.
been the last 3 years. Yeah.
Uh, uh,
So now we're up to speed. It's been a
yeah,
long, winding road with a lot of forks and like just lot of segues.
a lot of segues, tangents, turning left, turning
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I just grabbed onto every single one of them.
Well,
Yep.
I I just feel that minority myth, or like the Asian,
The model minority.
yeah, the Asian model minority is just like, I think it's more, I've been thinking about it more mainly because it's like we're exploring it with my dad, and like he has the context, like he doesn't understand Japanese internment, or he doesn't understand what Chinese exclusion means. He doesn't understand those things. And that's not of the
Well,
fault
he's
of
also got
him.
6 other kids before you, right? So there's
And
6 other kids before you to re-experience that with every single time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like he's gone through a genocide too, so like he probably just doesn't, like, his brain bandwidth, like, like he just wants to work and get his kids to school. That's like the Asian mentality. But I think
Yeah, he wants to get it over with.
yeah, but now he has time to reflect on things, and he's been wanting to learn English. And so one of the books we read was Eddie Wong's Fresh Off the Boat, and like this is from a perspective of a person like you and me that's born, well, that's super presumptive of me, but like somebody that was born in the United
Oh, I was born here, yeah.
States. Okay, so sorry. Just wanted to make sure. I
I
just
thought you meant you and me, like your dad. And I was like,
Oh,
your dad was born here?
Victor, I don't see you
And I
that
was like,
way.
genocide?
Okay, no. uh Anyways. Ooh,
We just met.
we just met.
Just want to reiterate, we
We
met
just
at a Ralph's.
yes, we met at a Ralph's.
Yeah.
But
Full disclosure. Yeah.
but in the context of like someone like you and me that were born here in the United States, we've had a different experience of, I guess, the American dream, our
Mm-hmm.
Asianness, right? And like this is somebody that, for us, I feel like we have the privilege of being in the communities that we've been in, the San Gabriel Valley, like
Sure.
pretty big with the Asian community. Like I felt a little bit of an outsider because I was more Southeast Asian than I was Eastern. um as a Cambodian, like one of the only Cambodian families in the
Mm-hmm.
San Gabriel Valley. So I still
Mm-hmm.
kind of felt like out of place, even though I did see people that kind of looked like me in my complexion. but but yeah, like
Sure.
reading that, understanding that, and like we've had a lot of questions about like what is quintessential Cambodian, like what or what is quintessential to the American experience. Like, do you think that I've gone through this and things like that? It's just really hard questions to ask a parent,
Hmm.
especially
Okay.
now.
Yeah. They're gonna get really specific.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you're gonna get really specific answers with asking questions like that. So, yeah.
yeah. And it's been a fun and interesting ride. And like now we're reading about Manzanar and like the Japanese internment, and like there's
Yeah.
been a lot of interest. There's been an interesting dynamic because I've talked about this with a few of my guests. It's like, like they're coming from what they've gone through, which is like an atrocity, and they're making this notion of like, oh, you had it easy and things like that. Well, like, let's not make that connection, or like let's not say that this was the full stop, and things like that. Like, sure, they didn't like kill Japanese people, but they took away their homes, they took away their freedom, they interned them
A lot of Japanese
on.
actually died in the camps from sicknesses. So, I mean,
They were still
as a
suffering.
result of being interned, they did die. Yeah.
Yeah, they were still suffering there. I think that's the thing that I wanted to at least hit. Like, there was the
Yeah.
freedom for you. I don't think I never realized the sickness part, but that does make sense though. That does make sense. Taking of a
Yeah.
situation, there could be a
Tight
lot of
quarters. They're all concentrate. Yeah. It's basically concentration camps, but they call them internment camps. It's the same. It's the same idea.
yeah. And so like
Yeah.
um I lost my train of thought here. But
Me
I,
too. But you were saying about, I think you were talking about how Asians with, Asian subgroups within the larger Asian community in LA. I think you were trying to hit on the point that we have always conflicted against each other and not really had a solid like unified identity.
Yeah, yeah, and like finding a solidarity and I guess within that struggle and things like that. And you know, his genocide, yes, granted, very like horrible. Like he lost two kids out of it. You know, he lost a large swath of his side of the family, and so like, how do you reconcile that with, I guess, a Japanese American that does have a trace memory of what happened to them and their family through Japanese internment? Or maybe if we could look much deeper, like a Chinese American living in the South that does understand the like the trauma of Chinese exclusion, and like they have a generations of living here in the United States that has gone through the cycles of violence of like racism and bigotry and things like that. Like now, like recently, it's like what one of the newest reports that just came out,
Well,
like literally more hate against Asian Americans has been.
1900% increase,
Yeah.
1900% increase in hate crimes against Asian Americans. Um, well, okay, going back to your point about how do you reconcile the differences between uh, the abuses of different Asian subgroups, it all comes back to power structure,
Hmm.
right? Like whoever's in power is abusing the ones who don't, or who don't have the power. Um, and that's what it all comes back to. And it's not just like the Asian communities; it's everybody. Do you remember Fight the Power in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s,
Yeah.
when
The.
rap music was just starting to yeah, when rap music was just starting to like kind of they were just starting to write about like fighting the man and fuck the police.
Hmm.
Well, it's because of the oppression that every one of us has been feeling. Um, Whether it's the internment camps or like police brutality or uh I guess whether it's like I don't know, hard to include your dad's genocide because that's new for me.
Yeah.
But it's still about like how power abuses. It's just about power abuse.
Hmm. It's
I
like
mean, it sounds
who.
reductive, but when you look into it, it's huge. Huh?
Yeah, it's like who carries
What?
who carries the water, or like who holds the most power in like a culture, or like a dominant um person, and it will, or an idea within a group of people. It doesn't have to be a person. It could even be an idea. Um, um, that a group of people
Yeah.
can hold. Yeah. No easy
Can you
answers.
describe that?
Well, I was also thinking
No,
like.
there's never going to be an easy answer
Mhm.
when you talk about political structures.
Yeah, or religious structures by that matter, because I had this conversation with someone about, I just said, I hate when I do that, about like like Muslims and Christians, and like all of these different aspects of like, oh, what's more regressive than the other and things like that. Well, like over time, like if you think about it as a history as a whole, like Islam had a golden age where education and like valuing other people's opinions had happened before. You know, you got to imagine that they were inclusive at one point, or the same for Christianity, and same for Buddhism, the same for Hinduism. That at some point they've had maybe some form of inclusion. They had some form of like trying to learn from other people. Like religions evolve. Like nothing never, like as much as we want to believe it, nothing necessarily stays the same over a long period of time. um
Hmm.
I guess that's, we try to fool ourselves into thinking that, but yeah, so in terms of dominant cultures, like if you live within the American context, it's like the white Protestant context of religion, right? Or if you live in an Asian American, or not Asian American, but if you live in an Asian uh, context, it could be Buddhism, or it could be Hinduism, it could be Zen Buddhism, or it could be Taoism, or Theravadaism, which is Southeast Asian, more kind of like Cambodia and Burma, not Burma, Myanmar, and like I think to some degrees Laos, but like Theravada Buddhism, which tends to be kind of like a more conservative version of Buddhism. But those inform how people, you know, act within each other and things like that. We might be getting really dicey here when it comes to religion, but we started talking about COVID and restaurants, but now we're here. But I think we're just vibing at this point.
How did we get here?
I don't. Is that we
Uh,
always ask this question? Have you ever wondered why we're here? Do you ever wonder
oh
why we're
boy,
here?
not that again.
It keeps me up at night.
Because the Big Bang started, and some pool of primordial sludge, and
And out came us.
yeah,
Um,
eventually,
eventually, it took a long time.
eventually,
Yeah, for some people, apparently, it only took 2,000 years.
right, yeah. Anyway, did you want to go back to talking about how the restaurant industry affects people or anything like that?
I think we might be winding down because how do we come up
Sure.
with
Works for me.
like how do we escape from talking about mental health in Asian communities?
I think if you rewind about 20 minutes or so, if your viewers rewind about 20 minutes or so, they're going to be pissed because you asked me a question about something about how restaurants affect families, and we never got to it.
So maybe
And
we
I
should
don't
just
even
end
remember the
with.
question.
I don't even remember the question either. That's the downside.
Yeah.
Well, whenever I have these long,
Just cut the
rambling
last 30
conversations,
minutes.
it'll be
I mean, look at the time. We're half an hour past time anyway, right?
Yeah,
just
we're,
cut the last 30 minutes. It doesn't matter.
it'll just be part of my clips.
Yeah. Right?
I just started a clip show. So I
That's
think
a rabbit hole you don't want to go into. Trust me.
well, in the San Gabriel Valley, I guess to finish it up in a bow, essentially, of the restaurant industry, of the markets, like groceries and and Asian American identity. Um, do you feel optimistic about how the community has set itself up next 5 years post COVID? Do you think that a
Ooh,
lot of
you mean from
small
the business side?
from the business side, do you think there will be a lot more mom and pop stores, or do you see this place becoming more corporatized by like bigger chain restaurants and
um, I've actually had this discussion with a few other restaurant friends of mine and other chefs. As much as we would like to believe that mom and pops are gonna, usher in the next wave of creative foods or whatnot in small communities, including the SGV, it's looking more and more likely that larger corporations and wealthier restaurant groups with exploiting corporate tax benefits are the ones that are going to take over pretty much every property that's for lease right now.
Mhm.
You can already see this with God, what was it? You can already see this with like some barbecue restaurants taking over any spots. I think, God, I want to say in Pasadena there were a few spots that were taken over recently.
Mhm.
No, in Old Town Pasadena, a lot of restaurants have shut down. Right, Pop Champagne Bar is gone. I think the Tea House Chato, or no, it was like an English tea house, so not Chato. That one's gone. Um, but nothing has taken over yet. Nothing has taken its place. But when you think about who's got the resources for something like Old Town Pasadena, it's gonna be it's gonna be those who already have the money. So in the long run, the rich are just gonna get richer, and we're gonna be there riding the coattails, trying to be their employees.
Mhm.
And as much as we try to start our own businesses, uh, it's going to be hard. I don't know how we're going to be able, how us small mom and pops are going to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Am I optimistic about mom and pops? Sure. Give it 10 years. Am I optimistic about mom and pops in the next 5 years? Not given what I've seen. Oh, I remember now. In a conversation I had with one of my friends, one of our favorite Korean barbecue spots was taken over by a fucking Subway.
What?
Subway. Yeah. It was a tiny Korean barbecue shack, like strip kind of thing with
Yeah.
only about 10 seats on the inside. But it was now it's gone and Subway took it over and it opened recently. This was, I think, in Whittier or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to ask him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but seriously, like if that's not a corporate taking over, like if that's not the most American thing you've ever seen, then I don't know what is. It's
Wait,
corporate stomping on like small business.
I, w-
America.
I was thinking about this. Because I guess my one of my friends is more optimistic, and it's probably easier for a white person to be more optimistic about it. Like opening up a new restaurant or things like that. But I just you hit the nail on its head. It's like who has the money to fill up these spaces, you know,
Well,
and
I mean,
like
did your friend mention access to resources? Because that could change the way that could change my viewpoint.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I think the idea that the main idea that he was bringing up is like there would be more places available for a smaller business to come in. Well, but I haven't seen that. Like I
If
haven't seen
prices go down.
if prices go down, but I haven't seen that in the current space. Like I would want to see the prices go down so more independent, more local individuals can take up those spaces and create something. But until that happens, until that support comes from either the city, the state, or the county, or like the federal government, if that doesn't happen on that level, then what is my confidence as a citizen that that's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, post COVID? And I think the big world changing
When
event that happened in the past year that got the restaurant industry where it is right now is this giant thing called COVID. And
yeah.
and this is uncharted waters, like we mentioned before. I don't know if we have the answers. I think we just speculate because we're so passionate about food, the cultures we come from, the communities we come from, and we wanted to, when they come back, to be coming back better than they were before. If
That's what we would
local
like.
That's
Yeah.
what we like. But if small mom and pop businesses don't do don't have the chance to do that, then who takes over? It's the McDonald's, it's the Burger Kings, it's the Chick-fil-A, it's the Olive Garden. And like I know
I don't think it's them. Olive Garden. Olive Garden. It would be the Olive Gardens. It would be the BJ's. It would be the like not even them. It would be like the Danny Meyer restaurants. The guy's got damn near what I don't actually know his net worth, but I mean he started Shake Shack, so he's probably a billionaire by now.
mm-hmm,
So
yeah.
it's like the fancy hotels that already have their businesses or the fancy hotels that already have their savings to open another restaurant. It's
Mm-hmm,
the corporate hotels that can open another corporate hotel within a couple of miles. Um, I don't think we're going to see fast food and mega corporations doing it anytime soon because right now we're in a movement of where they're under a like kind of a microscope and it would be really bad PR for them to do that.
mm.
But let's say the Sheraton decides to open a Sheraton. Bad example. Let's say what's one of your favorite restaurants in I don't know the Beverly Hills or West Hollywood or something.
I'm not that worldly, but if I'm going out west, I would say Sajita.
Worldly is 20 miles, man.
Yeah. I'm not as worldly
All
as
right,
you,
fine.
Victor.
Okay,
but,
fine.
but but
But
Sajita
let's
and
say
Santa Monica. That's like
Sujita,
that's
yeah.
west. Sajita.
So it's
Yeah.
Sujita is yeah, they've got the resources necessary to take over like the leases that are now opening up within the next couple of years if no one buys it and no one else can buy it because no one else has saved up that money
Mm-hmm.
because the margins of a restaurant like are so narrow that 3 weeks of business can determine whether or not you're shutting down next week. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, it's more like this. A good night can determine whether or not you're paying the rent this month.
right.
That's how slim the margins are for restaurant industry. So, I mean, a place like Sujita, yeah, they a good mid-sized company with what was it? A good mid-sized restaurant group with holdings like that. Yeah, they're going to be the ones that take over these leases.
Mm-hmm.
And the only option that the rest of us are going to have is to work under them. But I mean, given time, anything is optimistic. Like anything, because anything is possible over time. Yeah, I'm optimistic about the long run, like the long,
Mm-hmm.
long run. It's just not going to be now. Not going to be the
Right.
next 5 years. 10, sure. Because in 10 years, your employees build up their own resources to break away from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how a new generation is going to start. The
Well,
10-year after COVID generation.
well, let's hope so. Let's really hope
Yeah,
so.
and we're going to see some amazing food coming out of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Be funny to mark my words at this point, and then it all turns into just burgers.
That's the thing about this podcast is like gonna be a oral history of how we
Well,
think
that's
and
all
things like that.
podcasts, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's true.
All podcasts are like that, aren't they? Yeah.
But
It's
I
just because
for
we only
you,
know this one moment.
yeah, exactly. But it's like for you and me in this micro sense, it's like you could look back at this and say like, oh, do I agree with myself? And like you don't have the option to edit it. Like I tend to like keep
That's
it
just
whole.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just life. Like, do I agree with past me?
Hmm.
Oftentimes we will say no. That's human.
Yeah.
And if anyone's ever said yes, my God, what a terrifying person to be.
I would just say good for them, I guess. Well, I guess in terms of
I guess
politics,
it
I
depends on the
guess
person.
yeah, I guess it depends on the person. Like because Bernie's been on it for like years, so like he's been
Yeah,
consistent. Um, we
decades. Yeah.
we've seen people change their minds in the past couple days, literally, since January 6th,
Yeah. True, true, true.
or in a matter of hours,
Yep.
in some cases.
Oh yeah, like after the first hearing, I think. No, wait. Proceedings. After the first proceedings? Yeah.
Anyways, is
All
there
right.
we're gonna be finishing up here. I think we've had a
Mm-hmm.
long talk. I do tend to go long-winded with these programs, but
Roughly
um
2 hours. Yep.
roughly 2 hours, if my previous podcast is any indication. Gotta work on that. I think we've but I think we talked about a lot of things. We talked about
Maybe warn your guests ahead of time.
and times. Yeah, sorry. I didn't necessarily mean that to be that way. Um but I
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed. Victor, do you want to plug anything that you're doing? Let people know your social media or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/smokypancooking. God damn it, it's backwards. Of course it is.
No, it's
All right.
it'll render the right way. It'll render the right way.
Really? All right, cool. Well,
Yeah.
here's one of my business cards, right? There we go. So on Instagram, I'm at Smoky Pan. And here's my cute little logo that my friend Chingy designed. Shout out
Okay.
to
Shout out.
Chingalicious for the logo. Yeah. Um. Anyway, yeah, that's the only thing that I have to plug. It's just my small business as a catering chef.
Hmm.
I don't know what to call myself, honestly. Right now, I'm using the word caterer, but I don't know. Am I a caterer if I'm only just taking orders and then delivering them? Hmm,
I
not sure.
guess.
I
I
mean,
don't
I'm
know.
taking orders, cooking, prep and cooking, and then delivering. Every now and then I get large orders, but mostly it's individual size. So,
Mm.
yes, check out my menu on Instagram at Smoky Pan. There's
Eh,
no E in Smoky. The only instance that there was ever an E in the word Smoky was Smokey the Bear. That
really?
that's the only time I've been able to find Smokey with an E.
Huh.
Really think about it. really, really dig deep, because on some level,
This is the real Mandela effect here. You just
right?
started.
Right.
Oh shit! I didn't realize that.
Look up Smoke. Oh, hey, Smokey Robinson.
Oh, fair play.
Another proper name. Oh wow, Smokey Robinson's still alive.
Good to hear. Good to
But
hear.
yeah, I mean, you look up Smoke. God damn, it's all names. Wow, would you look at that? We have a Mandela effect reversing my Mandela effect. Because I look up Smokey with an E now, and it's all these named businesses, except it's never like the word smoky. To
Really?
describe something that's full of smoke or has smoke,
Yeah.
they drop the E, they replace it with a Y. But to write the proper name, they keep the E and they add the Y. Why the hell do they do that?
That's
Why does that happen?
that's weird.
It's no wonder no one can get my name right. It's no wonder no one can get my business name right.
Ooh.
I've actually been thinking about a name change for the past couple of months. Yeah,
A name
because
that does.
everyone's been typing, huh?
I was gonna
No,
say,
because
and
everyone types like Smoky Pan on Instagram. They always add the goddamn E, and they're like,
mm-hmm.
"I can't find you." I'm like, "What? What do you mean you can't?" And then it took me months. Like it took me 5 months of operations to realize that everyone's been spelling it with an E.
Mm-hmm.
I no, I can't do that. I can't acquiesce to that.
It's just your name is really tied to the Mandela effect.
Seriously.
um,
It's the Berenstein Bears thing, man.
or Berenstein Bears. It was Berenstein or Berenstein. Okay, I think
No,
the
it's
podcast.
Berenstain or Berenstein. That's what it was. Berenstain or Berenstein.
This podcast has gone too long. And
Yeah,
I think we tacked on another 10 minutes.
when we try to warp time, then no,
I
it's gone too
think
long.
I
This is
think
probably the clip show right here. This last 10 minutes,
I
which
think
I'm pretty sure lasted 4 minutes.
we should have you on again someday to talk more about some of the things that I think we brought up today, the mental health bit, the Asian American identity, or like expectations,
Yeah, some
but
people when they ramble, they go down a vine. Like they go down a vine. You built a friggin' tree,
yeah,
so
if you're gonna get to know me better, that's how to talk.
oh boy, that's how we're gonna do
I
it, huh?
need to learn how to edit myself. That's my problem. Hopefully, I should know this for the podcast. But anyways, thank you for clicking on me for a long-winded conversation, and we'll see you on the next time. Thank you, Victor, for being my guest, and I hope you
Anytime.
agree on another podcast.